Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson, and it's going to be a brief mailbag this week as we only have three questions on the docket. As I think there's so many new messages, so many new threads started, and quite honestly, so much hand wringing over the 52-51 overtime victory over ECU, the scary opener, so to speak, that the mailbag thread, which I posted on Monday, it's actually way down the second page. So I think even some people who normally would ask questions just missed it. It's just that time of year, football season, a lot of reactions, a lot of opinions, and I should have bumped it earlier this week, and I just forgot. Wasn't thinking about it, but that's something moving forward this season I'll pay better attention to. But we do have three questions, so I will answer them. First one comes from X Saddle Tramp, who says, for the first time since Coach Joey McGuire was hired, which he was all for, he's now beginning to question the hiring. Which I want to say two things about just that statement. He made more statements than actually asking questions, but he did ask a question. One, it's perfectly fine to question, everything as far as I'm concerned, philosophically, including your head, the head coach of your favorite football team. Which in this case I believe is Texas Tech. On the other hand, I think it's really foolish to question McGuire in terms of I've already made up your mind, this wasn't a good hire or something like that. I think he's the perfect fit for Texas Tech. I'm going to get to your question here in a minute about recruiting. But speaking of, recruiting has improved greatly under Joey McGuire compared to everybody else. Really, since I can remember. The culture of the program's strong. I think most of the fan base is still very much behind him. He's a great ambassador for Texas Tech. He gets Texas Tech, all that stuff, which you don't have to have the last couple of parts. But I do believe he's a good coach. There are some good things that he has already accomplished in terms of winning Big 12 record that Tech hadn't accomplished in a long time before him. Very strong Novembers. He beat Oklahoma and Texas in the same year for the first time in Texas Tech history. So Joe McGuire has already accomplished in just over two seasons a lot more than a lot of the previous coaches. So I honestly, truly, sincerely, for no other reason other than I believe it to be the truth, think that Joey McGuire is the right guy. So, but on the other hand, do I agree with everything? Do I believe he shouldn't be questioned? No, of course. I mean, why wouldn't you question it? There are so many things that are amazing in my life that I question constantly. I think that would be unintelligent not to question important things to you. So if Red Raider football is important to you, who the head coach is, which is critical to the success of a program, then yeah, of course you should question it. I think there's a line where you can go where it can potentially hurt the program or your fandom of the program. But no, go ahead and question it. But in my humble opinion, I think he's the right guy. Now, in terms of your actual question, and it's several sentences later, but you said he's recruiting athletes, but are they football players? Yeah, they're football players. Go look at their huddle. Go look at, you could say you have a lazy, Sunday afternoon and you can't really think about what you want to do. I mean, NFL football is coming up, so I don't know about that. But if you have some time on your hands and, you want to really delve into this question, go look at the huddle highlights and, some of the evaluations of the guys in the 2023 signing class, 2024 signing class, and then this 2025 commitment class. And, make the decision for yourself. But I think you're going to find that those are some really good football players. So, no, I understand what you're saying about the athletic part of it, but they look for a certain dimension and athletic ability within football players. I think I think we might be overreacting to how Texas Tech performed in the season opener. Let's just put it that way. They did win. Let's see how they do against Washington State, and then we'll reevaluate, of course, week to week. But I absolutely think Joey McGuire is the right guy. It's going to take some time. I know fans are tired of hearing that, but he has already accomplished several things that a lot of previous Texas Tech coaches never did. From Syntex said, why was the offense held to 0 TDs in the second half? Well, they weren't. They did score a TD, and 2 if you count overtime as well. You said you consider the one a special teams TD and assist from the offense. Well, life doesn't work that way. Yes, it was just a one-play drive, and it was a flea flicker from, 30, 35 yards that the special teams did set up. Dre McCray's great kick return. I believe it was the second great kick return, and great job blocking from the kick return team. But they did score a touchdown. But in terms of why they stalled some in the second half, which they did, that's, in my opinion, a true statement. There were several things. One, Bear Morton, who played great in the opener, but he did have at least 3 passes batted down in critical moments that really hurt. And then 2, so many penalties. I remember it live, being at the Jones Open, the press box, watching, another penalty. But it was really apparent on the rewatch later in the week just how much false start penalties, holding penalties, really hurt Texas Tech's offense and stalled them out. And that's something that McGuire mentioned in fall camp. Too many pre-snap penalties. He said that after both scrimmages. And you know what? It happened again in the opener. So they can't do that. They have to be better. I don't care if they brought Cameron Brown in, which I think probably messed up that 3rd and 1 inside the 10. I don't care what the reason is. You have to execute the offense. You can't have those pre-snap penalties. If I was a coach, to be honest, I would lose my cool. Just sitting here, you could tell probably looking at me that it would be very hard for me to keep my composure and not just run them so they all puked and passed out and stuff. I'll probably get in trouble. That'd probably be the least of it because you just can't have it. Just not, if I was coach, I'm just not going to have it. I'll play somebody else. I'll run you to you, puke and then run you some more. Get medieval if I have to, because that's not going to happen, and it did, and it hurt. Also, and I don't know if they're going to be able to fix this part of it, but the offensive line just didn't get a very good push in short yardage situations, especially on the interior. So that's something we're going to have to monitor, and I think that's going to be a recurring problem throughout the season. Unfortunately, I don't think they're ready to dominate on the interior of the offensive line up front in terms of in the running game. Now they pass protected very well, so we'll see if they can keep that up. Joe Leaphorn wants to know what has been some bad opening game performances of teams that eventually went on to win the Big 12 championship. Well, Kansas State wasn't the opening game, but they did lose to Tulane in 2022, and then they went on to win the Big 12 championship, I believe. But Tulane, that's a pretty dang good program, so I don't know how bad of a loss that turned out to be, but at the time it was kind of, it was eye-opening. It was kind of, Kansas State had another early season struggle. Baylor didn't lose the season opener against Texas State in 2021, but it was 29-20, and it was pretty close. I think I remember watching that game. And Texas State, hung pretty tight with Baylor. But Baylor would go on to win the Big 12 championship that year. So those are 2 that I remember. I think Oklahoma lost to Houston one year, and they went on to win the Big 12 championship. But of course, Oklahoma's not in the Big 12 anymore. But those 2, Kansas and Baylor, in terms of non-conference early season poor performances, stand out, and then they went on to win the Big 12 championship. There's probably some that I'm missing. You probably have a couple of mine when you ask that question, but those 2 are recent ones from teams that are still in the Big 12. So, well, like I said, it's going to be a brief mailbag, and it was. Those were the 3 questions I received. Hopefully I'll bump the thread and people will be able to see it. I know at least a couple people were wondering where the thread was, and I didn't see that until it was time to record. So I'll definitely stay on that next week. But anyway, thanks for your questions. Thanks for watching, and until next time.